Um, uh,
Sorry, we record this. Okay, so
sure.
yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
I think that if I go back and reread it and take a look at it several times, I think I'll be able to understand it a little bit better than I did the article with the neuroscience, which became far too technical for my vocabulary.
Yeah. Okay. Hi, Phillips. How you been?
Hello, hi everyone.
You finished for the day?
Yeah, I'm done, so I can join today.
Oh, wow, that's wonderful.
Good.
Welcome back then. Yeah.
Yeah,
So you read the articles I sent to you?
yes, I read it. I thought it was kind of hard to read.
Okay.
I think there was some parts I didn't understand, like the thought, and then like separating from the thought, and then I wasn't really sure what they were trying to say. Yeah, I might be a bit of a beginner with understanding it. So yeah, I did like the concept though. I tried to understand as much as I could, but I thought it was a little complicated for my level right now.
Then we can discuss then about William. You you went through those information in the articles.
Yes, I did read the article this time, and I loved it. I was very impressed by the writer, how clearly and distinctly that he was able to express the practice. And I agree that I did have to read it slowly because the ideas he was conveying, they were if read too fast, it was hard to follow. But reading it slowly, it was really I mean, I was inspired. It's like, oh man, maybe I should stop following a sensation, and I should focus on that practice of choosing some object to focus on the mental formation. But it seems he's just as, I don't know, as close as you can be, but just describing the process of seeing the true nature and the mechanics of it with so much mental dexterity. I thought it was very cool that this person had devoted themselves to that point to be able to write the article so well.
Yeah, actually he drew mainly from the Tibetan sources. So actually this one is all articles, but I think this is understandable. But still, we need to make some sort of comparison uh, with other Buddhist tradition about samatha too. Samatha has been concentration, bring focus.
I
Yeah.
agreed. I agree with William that it was very, very clearly written. It was just for me. An enormous amount of material to absorb in such a short space. So I think it's an article that bears rereading and maybe rereading several times before I can get my thoughts around all of the stuff that he was talking about.
Thân Thiền, you understand the articles? You read the articles?
Yeah, Mopake. I started reading at 4:30, and I read it so quick that there are some parts that I don't understand, and there are some parts I do understand. It's something that I should take the practice, and I start doing it for 1 minute, and I try to focus on one object, and this object kind of changed, so I have to pick a different object to focus on, and and this object doesn't work. I have to pick different objects in order to focus on. And I think I found one object that I can be able to focus on. Yeah, the more percent.
Thank you. Yeah, let me show you one thing before we discuss in detail about this. Let's see here. Mm. Mm. Let me share with you the toward the end of the articles. So it say that let's see here. Here, there's two opposite approaches in the modern science. So they focus on the environment and body, and especially with the brain, to bring them under control. So this means in Buddhist view, if you bring the mind under the control, alternative will be under control. That's Buddhist view. But in the modern science, in opposite way, that if we can control environment, if we can control the body, especially the brain, the mind will be controlled. Which one is more logical? I want to start it first, and after that we come back there. What do you think?
So of course the mind, I mean, the mind controls everything. So you get the mind under control and then everything just falls into place. That makes a lot more sense. I don't quite understand the body, that whole even concept, really what they're saying there. That's hard for me to understand.
So that's why they invent or they produce all kind of medicine can alternate, can alter, can change the chemical of the brain.
Right.
Can instill some kind of, not bliss, but some kind of calmness, peacefulness, whichever. Like if someone has depression, they take the pill, it could calm their mind down. So that's what they say.
That still doesn't make sense because it's the medicine that's calming the brain, not the person. So you still don't have control over the brain.
That's what I like to focus on, well, to discuss. And I want to focus this one and I come back to the top so that we can see why concentration is so important. The mind, control the mind is so important. Control doesn't mean that we try to control the mind, but we try and transform the mind. Yeah, Phillips, what do you think about this one? Phillips.
I think it's kind of interesting because I like to do yoga, and there's a lot of yoga philosophy that is similar to Buddhist philosophy, because I guess their histories are both from around the same time. But there's an emphasis on like controlling your body and disciplining it, and then by disciplining it, you will have a ripple effect to your mind.
Okay.
So I think I could kind of see it both ways. But then I agree with you because I feel like in a lot of healthcare, people try to target one thing through a pill, but then they forget how it's connected to everything else, especially the mind. And then you always wonder why
So
there's still no like Alzheimer's medication or things like that. And I think it's because you can't just control the brain. I feel like there's so much more to it than just the organ.
okay. So in your profession as a pharmacist, you think the medicine can bring the happiness to other people?
I think it might bring some relief in a temporary form for that one thing, but then sometimes I think people overprescribe, and then it causes more side effects, and then everything is connected in the body, and then sometimes it gets really messy. So it's nothing is isolated, but I think the way a lot of people prescribe, you like go to your doctor with your one isolated problem and they give you one treatment, and then it kind of spirals out of control. So I think I see that a lot. So I think it's not like it doesn't work, but I feel like people might not get the full context from the healthcare provider. So they might be putting too much emphasis on one thing.
Yeah, William, as a doctor, so you think medicine can provide all the cure, or what do you think about the mind? About combination of both?
Yeah, certainly can't provide everything. There's limitations to it. So I had some thoughts on your first question. With this question specifically about medicine, I think one thing we could consider would be like in ancient India, there was that substance called soma. And soma was said to give people this experience of like just this dazzling, amazing experience where they would apparently understand so much about everything. But then after it was gone, people wouldn't just do it once. Some people would do it like 3 times a day to try to maintain that sense of like understanding and seeing. And so then they become dependent upon the acquisition of the soma. And the soma was like difficult to prepare. And so in a way, they haven't liberated themselves at all. They've now become dependent upon something else. And medicines certainly have a role, but if the mind first isn't brought under control, then the individuals that are making the medicines and that own the companies, well, I mean, they're not doing it just to help people alone. They're also doing it to make money. So then even though there are all of these medicines that can help people and help them live longer, make them feel better, well, not everybody can get them. And then there's all sorts of stresses associated with that. And then, you know, there are all of these animals that have to die in the process of making these medicines because they're the ones that are experimented on. So I think when we try to solve the problem through technology, we have to use the mind in order to do that. And if we haven't already mastered the mind, then the technologies we make and the way that they're implemented will cause suffering, even at the same time that it relieves some other suffering. So, you know, it's like, all right, well, cars helped us get places faster, but now we're dealing with global warming. There are, all sorts of examples like this where technologies have unexpected consequences. So I think what this brings to mind is in Tibetan Buddhism, there's a saying that goes something like, you don't have to cover the whole world with leather if you simply wear a shoe. It's like if you wear a shoe, it's like the whole world is covered with leather. And that's the same thing as mastering the mind, and then everything else is taken care of. So if someone first has mastered their mind and then uses technology to help people from that state, that's probably the best of both worlds, I would think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this is the statement toward the end of this articles I want to discuss first before we come back to discuss about this the benefit or the stages of samatha or concentration. So what do you think with your own experience with the company out there?
I saw this passage here, and I did not realize that this is how it was translated in English. But in Vietnamese, I know this why, because I heard this a lot of time in Vietnamese Buddhism. And the statement that if you can control your mind or your thumb, okay, thumb đi đầu. So it's very common. I hear a lot of time. I haven't seen this in this translation like this. So I'm glad when I saw that. It's kind of bring back something that I know of. Yes, I think it's very fundamentally if you can control your mind, your heart, your I say in your own kind of mindfulness, your heart and your compassion and things like that everything will be lead from there. So if your heart is that way, your intentions is that way, therefore your action follow that way. So if you can make those decisions and apply those based on your mindfulness, and by applying that mindfulness, you have to be at peace at this state, that different state that the author went through. This is my first time reading it in this the 8-9 stages. I'm not sure where I'm at with those stages, but there's a lot of theoretical discussion. But when we practice in Buddhism, I think that's probably the main benefits coming out of it. But I know that the author also mentioned that it doesn't have to be Buddhism. This is a concept in the mind itself, the theory of the mind. And so that's kind of interesting perspective too. In the beginning of the article, the author Wallace talked about this apply across all religions, the aspect of different religions, and doesn't have to be Buddhism per se. So that's my perspective on it. When I saw that sentence, it brings back some of the memory I have or the teaching that I have been told many times about if you control your own thinking, your heart, your soul, your compassion, and your mindfulness, that's where everything come out and you'll be at peace of it. But it's difficult. Yeah, it's very difficult. It's not that easy to do that.
Yeah, Dr. William, you'd like to say anything?
Well, I think that the people who've spoken have spoken to a lot of the things that that I would say. I think that the world outside of us, our environment, our context, is so subject to change and variation and factors that we can never hope to control. And I think that we are more likely to be happy and to be at peace if we focus on controlling our own mind. I think of my youth, my childhood, and my mother was quite an unhappy person who sought to become happier with all kinds of medications. And had she ever been able to focus on controlling her mind rather than bringing medicine from the outside in the hopes that it would control her mind and make her happier, I think she would have been a much happier woman.
What do you think? Yeah, that's wonderful. Yeah. What do you think?
So I think he's right. So I think the medicine gives you kind of the illusion of happiness, but not true happiness. So while you're taking it, then you'll feel happy, but as soon as it goes away, then you're not happy anymore. So it's just kind of illusion, just like anything else that people use, the alcohol or the illegal drugs or any other kind of device. But I like the concept of the yoga, how she was talking about the mind, body, and they say mind, body, and soul, or mind, body, and heart. But my kind of understanding of the yoga is it's a meditation, but what it's doing is it's helping you with your concentration. So it's making your mind concentrate on the movement of the body and focusing on the body. So you're not really like focused on controlling the body, but more of just being in the body.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I want to dwell on this so that we can recognize how important the mind is, right? Let's put in religious way of life. Can we control environment? No way. Whichever.
But I think we should remember one of the things that Phyllis said, which is that medicine can provide relief on a number of circumstances and a number of occasions. I'm very glad I have my heart medicine, and I would be very nervous to try to control a heart condition with my mind. I understand that it can be done, and I think that what I do with my mind will help my heart condition, but I'm glad those pills are there.
Yeah, definitely. Without the vaccination, we would not dare to step out the door anymore.
Yes.
So my point is that we need to recognize which one is more important, which one is complement to our life, right? So yes, definitely we need medicine, right? To overcome our disease, whichever way. But again, that's just the way that we take from other people. But we need to control our mind.
Yes.
It's more important. This is the essential mean of our lives. So if we just focus on the environment, we just focus on the body, and the environment changing, whether it's the house, the building, or the cars, it's changing moment by moment. There's no way for us to control. So do our body. We get in order. We won't get younger. So one day we are out of control of this body. But at least in this present moment, if we do meditation well, at least we can have ability not to control but to calm our mind. For sure, we have that kind of confidence. At least we can control whichever thing here with our practice. Of course, when we sick physically, yeah, we need to see you, right, William and Phillips. Right, we need your medicine, right? But again, the mindset is so important in our life that we need to train it so that we can uh, live with the power still life. That's why I want to emphasize on this before we move back to the articles. Otherwise, yeah, many people, if they focus on the external things, they get lost easily. Even yeah, like Dr. William just mentioned, right? Yeah, if we're sick, we can take medicine, but if we rely upon too much medicine, whichever out there, we get lost ourselves. Mm. Yeah, so let's go back. I think some things is easy to understand, but other things I think is hard. Let's go back up here. That I think that I highlight here.
I had a therapist one time when I was really young, and he kept telling me, you have to get your mind straight. You gotta get your mind straight. But he never like said meditation or gave any kind of.
Okay.
And even when he was dying of Alzheimer's, he kept that. When I saw him in church, like, did you get your mind straight? Yeah, did you get your mind straight? So he knew, but he didn't know how to like give you the tools.
Yeah, that's why here in Buddhist way, all phenomena are preceded by the mind when the mind is comprehended, or phenomena are comprehended. So he really focused on mind. That's why I used to tell my students, if you know what's meant by Buddhism, Buddhism is talking about the science of the mind. It's in accord with psychology. Yeah. And so again, if there's no training, let's say even if have vaccination, if live in the nice house, comfortable house, what happen if we have crazy mind? Yeah, there'll be mental hospital then. Yeah, so this is so important that we need to take care of our mind. And here it mentioned, yes, excitement. That's mean I think in this views it's like the rumination of our mind, or the the waves of our thinking, the thinking, the thinking mind,
Like
the
the
thoughts,
monkey mind,
the monkey mind. You can
yeah,
say that.
jumping.
Yeah, the monkey mind, and agitation too, intention, And laxity, that means laziness, or I used to say that it's like when we sit in meditation, these two things we encounter. One is we run around, I mean, that we play around with our monkey mind. Another thing is that we feel sleepiness. That's two problems that we face every day. And here, the definition of the samatha, that's mean quiescent, is a serene attentional state in which hindrance of agitation and laxity are in the other mean in Buddhist view. The monkey mind, or the rumination of thought, as well as the sleepiness, have been truly calm. We overcome that. And that's what, again, he say, yeah, everyone can practice, everyone can focus the mind. But here I will see that, with my own experience, when I sat down with my student, I mean college student, the one that didn't know anything about meditation, so most of the time they could focus their mind for at most 3 minutes, and beyond that, that's problems. Yeah. So 1 minute is okay. 1 minute is no problem. 2 minutes no problem. Too short. 2 minutes is okay. 4, you have to watch out. Because of course depend upon on the attention span of each person. Sometimes people pay attention more, sometimes they don't pay attention much, especially college students, right? Their attention span would not last long. So that's what is talked about. And he mentioned, he used analogy like telescope. You put the telescope on a foam platform, and from that time on you move it around to see things around. Yeah. So again, it's like you light the oil lamps. If there's no wind, the lights will be more brighter. If it's wind, we could not see clearly. So that's what about. And he provides some type of practice. And actually, we talk about that, about 40 object of meditation. We talk about that, right? You remember?
The colors and
but this one
elements.
is one of the example, right? The mental image when we see the pebble, when we see the flowers, right? And when you close our eyes, the flower will still have that image in our mind. If we really focus our mind enough, we could visualize, we could recognize that type of flower in our mind. Yeah, and so that here he mentioned about how we focus on that subject. So together with the mindfulness is again pay attention on or have the recollection or pay attention on the subject. It's different from concentrate on the subject. You understand different now, right?
I did.
What's the difference?
But now I don't. Because it's so weird, because it seems like mindfulness is concentration. Like mindfulness is just, so if you're meditating on like a color, then the mindfulness is concentrating on the color. If a concentration is something different, like really evaluating it.
Here, okay.
It's always so clear when we discuss it, and then it gets confusing again.
Phillips, do you understand the difference between concentration and mindfulness?
No, I don't understand.
Oh, Thân Thiền, do you understand the difference between concentration and mindfulness? Concentration, that means samatha. Mindfulness, it means vipassana. Okay.
That's special seeing.
Yeah. You understand that definition, Thân Thiền? You understand?
Mindfulness is something you be aware of something that at the present moment, And concentration is making when you concentrate on something, it make your mindfulness be stronger. And when you concentrate on something, you pick one object and you focus on it, like you study on your art, or you study on writing the book, or you study on, or you focus on your your breathing. Yeah, the more precise.
Yeah, and you understand the difference between concentration and mindfulness?
Maybe not that clear, but I can try. To me, concentration imply a very physical mental state that you kind of force yourself physically to focus, consciously focus on something. Mindfulness is a state where awareness of all these sensory come and go, but you don't force it to. I guess you don't force yourself to focus on something. That's my basic understanding of it.
Yeah, William, you know that. Mm.
Yeah. Generally, I think of mindfulness as being aware of whatever is in our field of awareness. So we can be, mindful of our physical sensation, of our feelings, of our thinking, of our senses, whatever sense information is coming in. And so if something draws our attention and we notice it without reacting to it, whether it's a thought or a sense impression or feeling, we remain as an observer. We think of it as not me, not myself, not I, but simply a phenomena. And in this article, he seems to be defining mindfulness in the same way as being synonymous with, I know in Sanskrit they use the word smriti, which means remembering or recollection. And so here he's using mindfulness as remembering or recollection. So in the practice of samatha, when he's saying to be mindful, it's to generate the remembrance of that object, of the image of the object, and keep that image present in the mind. And then concentration, is typically, instead of like what I said was my typical understanding of mindfulness, the first part, not how he seems to be using in this article as recollection. Concentration is like taking our attention and then holding it upon one thing, and then being vigilant to maintain it there.
Yeah. Thank you. Wow, that's, how about Dr. William? Do you understand that difference?
I'm not so sure that I do. I think that my understanding of concentration is the focusing upon an idea, an object, a thought, a situation. Whereas mindfulness is aware of that, being aware of that idea or thought and situation, and the things that surround it, the things that are, as the doctor said, the things that are in our field of awareness. I think of mindfulness as being something broader and wider than concentration, which involves a focus. And in my case, I've usually used concentration for thinking on something toward a particular purpose.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Each of you have correct definition of concentration and mindfulness. Again, it's easy. It's like the flashlight, right? When you point to a door, you recognize us. You focus the light on the door knobs. You focus on one subject, whether it's the cars, the door knobs, or whichever. Or you focus on the breath. That's concentration. Focus on one thing. Mindfulness again, yes. Besides, like William did mention, that is that by definition, the recollection of thought or whichever, and on the top that in the practical sense, it's a series of concentration. When we point out the flashlight to any place around the room, to the table, you see the table clearly. To the window, you see the window clearly. Like William, why you park your car, you can absorb, right? Absorb the front, or you could feel the air coming to your window and so forth. You have that type of pure awareness without any kind of force. That oh, I need to remember this, I need to recognize this, but you get awareness. And even in concentration, you don't need to do any you don't need to use any force, especially when you follow your breath. You don't need to use any force at all. When you get use of that, when you get use of concentration on your breath, that's become effortless awareness too. That's what we discussed last week. If you really focus, if you really force yourself to concentrate, you'll be exhausted, and eventually you may have more stress.
I think about concentration like as concentrating, studying for a test, concentrating on the materials, but it's the same force, like, and then you get exhausted.
No, you don't force yourself. No.
Not anymore.
Hi, Ethan. Yeah, welcome then.
Chào thầy, hello.
You are at the hospital, or you are in your dorm now?
Yeah, I'm at Columbia right now. Yeah, I'm here in Columbia. I'm finishing up finals before I graduate.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah.
Done everything? Done everything yet?
Did I what?
Have you done your test? Have you done your final yet?
I'm done. I'm done.
Oh. So you graduate this May?
I graduate next Friday.
Oh, wow. Congratulations then. Your parents will come down, right?
Yeah,
Oh,
they will.
Okay. So hopefully you may join our summer camp here if you have times. Right.
Yeah.
Okay, we talk about that. Okay, yeah. So again, if you really focus your mind, the breath, and if you are in tune, if you're really in tune with your breath, whether you count in or you follow your breath, it's become an effortlessness. You would use any force. If you used to use your forces, mean your mind is not stable yet. That's the tricky ways of meditation too. Like while you're driving the car, right? You really control the wheel. No, you feel be tired. Yeah, you relax yourself, right? You are in when you're really in tune with your car. You are one with your cars. You would not feel the sense of controlling. But if you still have a sense of controlling, that's problem come. Like Phillips, when you prescribe the medicine, and when you talk to the, you interact with a lot of customer clients at the pharmacy?
No, not anymore.
You're in the back. You're in the back.
Yeah, I used to, but not anymore.
Maybe intense, right? If you deal with them every day, right? How intense is that?
Yeah.
How?
I feel like it's kind of overwhelming.
Yeah, you deal with all kind of people, right?
Yeah, I think it's just a lot of people, and I'm a little bit more introverted.
Yeah, okay. All kind of people, all kind of complaints, right? Anyway, so again, like Dr. William, when you really focus your mind right and you are in tune with your writing, right? There's no sense of self. I'm writing now. Whenever you have thought of I'm writing, that's a problem. Is that right? What do you think?
Yeah. When you focus on writing fiction, there are times when you lose that sense of self, that you are anchored in the world that you're writing about, that you're imagining, and that sense of self falls by the wayside, and that's usually the best writing.
Yeah. What happened? One thought, oh, I'm writing. What do you think?
Yeah.
What do you think? When you have that thought, why you so immersed into your writing, but somehow,
Yes.
oh, I'm writing now. What happened then? What is the difference?
And everyone who reads fiction has that experience where you look up from the page and you realize that you've been in that writer's world for 15, 20 minutes and haven't even thought about your world. And you have that experience, I think, when you're a kid, and you have that experience as a reader when you're an adult. And the more of that, I think, that you find in a book, the better the book is.
Yeah. So that's become effortlessness, awareness of concentration. Like William, when you give the treatment to the patient, right? When if you really in tune with your patient, right? You really recognize their own suffering, right? And at that time, you and that patient would not be two persons, is that right? What do you think, William? You have that kind of sense?
Yeah. I won't think about that in the moment, but on reflecting on it, there's certainly an absorption with the process, with what's happening, to the point where I'm not thinking. Those moments do happen, and those are, I mean, usually pretty cool.
Yeah, like Dr. William said, the best moment is the one that you really in tune, you really immerse in your writing. You're probably, right, William, the best moment for you to give the treatment, the best treatment for your patient is you really in tune with your patient. You really recognize their sufferings as your own suffering. That's why you could prescribe the proper medicine for them. You could guide them whichever. Right. Phillips, you understand that?
I think I understand a little more now. So is this concentration?
Yeah, that's concentration.
Not mindful. Yeah, okay.
That's concentration. You really focus on things that you're doing, on things that you're talking to, on the thing that you communicate with other people. Right? Yeah. So Anand, is it clear now, right? Yeah. So Ethan, we talk about the difference between concentration. When you work, you still working in the nursing home, right?
I'm getting ready to start a new job at a thyroid clinic as a medical assistant. So I help out the doctor at like an outpatient clinic.
Wow, that's good. That's good training for you.
Mm-hmm.
So you are on the path to become a PA, right?
Yes.
Wow. Oh, okay, that's nice. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah. So again, so that's kind of absorption, concentration, focusing, right? And now when we talk about mindfulness again, like while we're driving, you be mindful, you pay attention on things surrounding you without having any kind of thought. You have the kind of pure awareness. So with that kind of pure awareness, if someone cut you off, right, right way. If the faster you are driving, the careful you have to be. You have to be mindful when you are driving. So again, in general term, plus in the term of the definition, that's the collection of things we remember, and also a series of concentration. Wherever you move the mind, you are mindful, or you focus, or you mindful with that action, with that speech, with that surrounding, whichever. Okay. Yeah. So, oh wow. Let me skip some part that's maybe hard to understand. Let me know if you like to talk on it. I want to move down. I want to move down the part that here the stages of development of samatha according to this not the authors, but he based upon the Tibetan views. The first one he said that the first stage attentional placement. That means the mind is strongly dominated by excitation. That means they still have a lot of thinking. So, but at least the mind, when the mind was overwhelmed by the compulsive illusion, then usually somehow the mind can be settled out on that kind of attention. That's the first stage. Yeah, please tell me to stop if you want to talk. Okay, so this high level of focus lasts within only 1 and 3 seconds. That's what he is called attentional placement. Probably it's work with the little children, right? And that's the first one. And he said that according to Buddhist psychology, especially in the Tibetan tradition, the will could help our mental process to focus on, to eliminate the laxity or sleepiness and the what he call this one here, what he call excitation. Yeah. So the second stage he's mentioned continual placement. That means they can focus on some subject at least a minute. That's what he labeled. Look at here, for up to a minute. That's second stage. Right? And the gross level of attentional stability has been achieved, but still they have gross excitation. That means when we sit in meditation, a lot of thoughts pop up and go in our mind. But even we can focus on a couple of minutes. And the third stage is the patch placement. So they can focus on the meditative object, and it continued to be patched up now and then. So I think this is labeled out because labeled out step by step of concentration. The 4 close placement. That means the attention is stabilized to the point one does not entirely disengage from meditation object for the full duration of each session. So each session we can focus. That's the 4 according to his writing. Yeah. So so here the power of mindfulness is his speed. Gross attentional stability is achieved and one is free from gross excitation. The gross one, but the subtle one is still there, according to him. And the fifth and the sixth, the fifth is taming. That's mean calm the mind, and the sixth is pacification of the mind. So taming does mean one can tame it gross laxity, sleepiness. We can have that awareness, and the sixth stage pacification, they can eliminate subtle excitation. You follow?
Yeah, it just seems like just looking at the terms, pacification would come before taming. Like you have to pacify something before you can tame it. But it looks like it's looking at different. Yeah. It's looking at different things, laxity and. But
still, I think he just categorized the terms. I think that he utilized the Tibetan approach, Tibetan explanation of how to tame the mind, how to calm the mind. So, in practical sense, they switch back and forth.
Those two,
Yeah, they switch back and forth. This is not the exactly, but still, this is for us to understand, right? And 7 and 8, complete participation and single point attention. Right, complete in the 7th stage, even subtle laxity, in which the full potency of attention rigidness is not brought forth yet, and is eliminated, mean that the subtle laxity has been eliminated, right? And that's the sorry, at the state of 7, right? Uh, and and at one point of single point attention, the mind can dwell with utter stability. So we can focus our mind on 1 hour and more. That called single mind, single point attention. You have any idea? You have any question? Anything, William? You follow this? You remember that? What do you think?
Yes, I follow. Do I have any questions or ideas?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I did earlier. Thanks for bringing that up. I'd forgotten about it. So when we using the breath instead of a static object, that's a mental image. So instead of focusing in a mental formation, we're focusing on physical sensation. So that's, I guess technically that's not, is that still samatha?
Here again, we discussed before, in the Theravada traditions, there are 40 common object of meditation. Like you can focus on the breath, you can focus on the water, the fire, the wind. You can focus the mind on the colors. You can focus the mind on the body, whichever thing. So here, the author didn't mention about the subject of meditation, but he talked about the stage of concentration.
And one's not necessarily better than the other. Because like you said, a flower or the image of the Buddha, to me that seems impossible just to see that detail. But for me, a color or ocean or element is a lot easier. So it doesn't, not one's not better.
Yeah, no, not one is better than others. Depend upon you. So it's your reference. For me, of course, the breath is better because as much we live, we still have it. But the flower we have to go out to pick up. All right. So again, everyone has different preference. So and again, depend upon the level of concentration. If you rely upon the studied object externally, yes, it's good for you to maintain that kind of concentration, a certain movement. If that's your preference, that's okay. But for me, I get used of focusing on my breath.
Okay, so what about doing 2 at once? Because like the breath, like the breath is something you like I always continuously do, but then I'll throw in like a color or something to focus on while I'm still doing the breath. I know that makes me not really concentrate on the breath as much, but it keeps the jumping around by just.
Yeah, Phillips, you understand? You heard her question, Phillips?
I think I kind of understand, like the jumping around. Yeah.
Yeah, so my question, I probably know the answer, but so like I try to focus on my breath always by counting the breaths, 1 to 10, and then 10 to 1. But to help the thought, the monkey mind from coming, if I just focus on a color or water or an element, it helps the thoughts not come as much. But then at that point, you're not concentrating on one thing, you're concentrating on 2 things. So that's probably not good. Where I kind of like, I'm still counting the breaths, but really focused on the color. So my
Is that
question
possible? What's your question? Is that possible or is helpful? That's your question?
Yeah, I guess is it helpful? I mean, it's somewhat helpful, but
Mhm.
you're not concentrating on the breath anymore, I guess. It's like a background noise.
Anand, you follow her question? What do you think?
Yeah, I to be honest, I laugh because I can't even focus on my own breath. So how could we focus on multiple things? So I would say, if you're pretty good with focusing on two things, I wouldn't suggest it. My limited experience, I would say that the whole intention is that using one object or one mental image to help you focus on, okay? So whether that you pick a color or pick water or fire or a rock, the idea is to train your mind to kind of gravitate into one thing and focus that one thing. The question is, should you, or is it possible? I don't have enough experience to say is it possible. I would say probably difficult for people to focus on multiple things. That's a normal human being. Not a lot of people can focus on multiple things. Do it well. Do it well, meaning really focus. Okay, but if your mind starts to wander between a breath and a color, then you're not focusing, right? So the whole idea is to focus on one thing. If you can actually zoom into one thing, and that's probably better. That's my thought. Now the other thing I want to ask the master is just, I'm not in real practicing of meditation. Let's say, for example, I decide that my breath, if I pick a color, I focus on a yellow color. Well, I guess my question is, just give me some idea, okay, for those who have done this a lot more. When I focus on a color, is there a certain pattern or certain thing that I'm supposed to see? Because a color, a primary color of yellow, well, if I first say, oh, yellow, I keep focusing on the yellow, it looks like pink, right? Pink, yellow, that's the first thing come on my mind. But then I say it's a primary color, but what is it made up of the yellow color, right? And then whether I'm supposed to, not supposed to, but I mean, is there like a certain logical thing that from a human mind that the more you focus, 1 hour, 2 hours, and then eventually that yellow color becomes nothing? That's where I'm not sure I understand that progression, I guess, right? So I'm quiet now. So if you can help me understand that, so I can move along.
Yeah, here, let me give you one example and also the story, but of course it wouldn't be happen to anyone of us. I don't know whether I told you the story or not. So in one passage of a sutra, the Srimad Sutra, so the Buddha asked some Bodhisattva, the one that have attained enlightenment. So one particular Bodhisattva, he mentioned that in the past, I practiced my concentration on the water. You remember the story? You know the story there? William, you know the story? So what happened then? Yeah, he merged himself with the water. He become one with the water. And what happened then? So one novice, he walked by the door, a window, and he saw water inside there. So what happened? You know, the children, he picked up a rock and threw inside that water, that inside the room. So when that Bodhisattva got out from concentration or samadhi, so he felt stomach, and he recognized, oh, this boy, he threw the rock into my body, that's in the water. So he told the novice, okay, next time when you saw the water, jump in and get the rock out from me. So of course, for us, it's beyond our imagination, right? But again, like Dr. Williams said, right? When you really focus on writing, you are in one with your writing, and you would not pay attention much to the surrounding, and whichever thing you write there, you are in tune with that. So again, go back to your question, and then yes, if you really focus your mind on the yellow color, eventually your mind will be yellow. And it's not fun with that, but that's the case because you really focus on that. You're one with that color, you're one with that water, you're one with that candles, and you are one with that breath. There's no distinction between the breath and you. And that's what they call the absorption, concentration, what they call here single point attention there. So I think it's better focus on one. But of course, when you do, let's say, when you're walking around, you can absorb the flower, the color, whichever.
I think you're right. I don't think it's even possible. I think what I do is I start with my breath and then I'll move to the ocean. And then after a while, I'm like, oh yeah, my breath. And I'll go back to it where I should just stay with the ocean at that point, like not go back to the breath. Like I feel like I'm supposed to be anchored and go back to it. But if I switch over, then I should just
focus on one. Focus on one thing at a time. Yeah. Ethan, you get that point, Ethan? Right? While you're driving, you really need to focus on your driving, right?
Yeah. It's funny that we mention all of this because I remember there's been times where, like, I don't know, like last year, I was meditating a lot, and what I do is for my mind to fixate on something, I have a fixate on just some sayings like Namo Fuck, and then just focus on breaths as well. So I guess it's kind of like that back and forth, like she said, of different things to focus on. And then I definitely can get to the point where I'm like in, like, I guess in that moment.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, William, you want to say anything? Okay. Yeah, all right. So Phillips, you get that? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think I understand it a lot better now from everyone's explanation. Thank you. So I feel like, is chanting a part of sama? Is you're like going to concentrate on a sound, I guess, a very repetitive sound.
But remember, when you do the chanting, you're not supposed to think.
Okay.
If you think, that's not a chanting. You follow the rhythm of chanting. You follow the rhythm of the sound. All right. Yes, you have to pay attention to reading. Yeah, William, you want to say anything?
Oh yeah, I am reading one of the Tibetan book on Tibetan Buddhism, The Words of My Perfect Teacher by Patrul Rinpoche. They describe a few Tibetan practices where they're visualizing incredibly complicated images.
Yeah.
Like they visualize above their head a certain distance, like the distance of an arrow, a full moon disk. And on that full moon disk is the symbol of home or Om. And then when you begin this mantra, from that full moon disk, there blossoms a lotus out of the Om. And then sitting on top of the lotus is Vajrasattva, and he's in an embrace with his consort, a Dakini, I think, maybe Yeshitsogal or something. And Vajrasattva has you visualize all of his specific jewelry and the color of his skin and his clothing and the things he's holding in his hand. And then Vajra, his consort, the Dakini, she has these specific things in her hand. And then in the center of his heart, the mantra, the words of the Vajrasattva Mantra, which are 100 syllables, they are inscribed as the size of a mustard seed. And you visualize, as you say the mantra, it in a circle going around. So at one point, it's kind of upside down. And then as you say this mantra, this milky white opalescent glowing liquid drips from that mustard seed, and then it drops down from between Vajrasattva and his consort, and then it falls on the head, like, you know, if I'm practicing it, my head, and then it flows in and like begins to fill up these different energy centers, and then visualizing like these different spinning wheels, and then this like darkness coming off, and it goes on, because then it's like this darkness goes down, and beneath the person they visualize Lord Yama and all of the people that they wronged in this life and previous lives, and this dew that's falling down goes down, and it's like incredibly amazingly complex. And the expectation is that the visualization is so vivid that it looks like every detail of Vajrasattva is really there. And so I imagine, right, that has to come after years of practicing, of getting one single object completely stable and vivid, and then gradually being able to build to greater and greater stability. Because otherwise it seems like way too much for me to do, and just a lot of mental busyness. I'm wondering your thoughts on that, Tay.
Yeah, again, I don't practice as I can focus on one. That's more than enough. And plus, that we call visualization. That's why in the Tibetan tradition, they have what we call mandala, some mandala. They make some mandalas and they visualize themselves that they immerse in the Buddha land within that mandala. And what they call guru visualization. That means when you visualize any Dakini, any Bodhisattva Buddhas, you are one with that Buddha. You are one with that Bodhisattva. And that's why they say, oh, you can attain Buddhahood now. If you really visualize that Buddha, especially if you visualize second Buddha, medicine master Buddha, or one Bodhisattva, you are one with that Bodhisattva. Again, it's not easy, because when you are one with that, you absorb their power, tremendous power,
But then
spiritually.
when you come out of it, it's gone. 'cause
No,
your eyes open,
for the master who are successful of that kind of visualization, it go with them.
Really?
Yeah, that's when they could perfect their visualization. But again, it's not easy. Like you hear how we mentioned. Yeah, probably in the future we let's discuss about that. But still, again, it's pretty complicated. Yeah. Well, thank you. Thanks for bringing up then. All right, so time is up. Right, so thank you. And you guys enjoy the articles? You think is this good to have that kind of articles for us to read ahead of times so that we can discuss, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I learned something new every time.
Oh, good. I love to hear that then. Okay.
The
Good.
only thing I love this article is give the theoretical and analytical side of it. But I would like to see how that actually put in more realism practicing, so I can relate to it. You follow me? Because this is very good for those who really want to dissecting it and kind of understanding it. But then how this 8 stages apply to me when I'm doing this, really doing it. Oh, you're reading it and you keep reading it. Like I said, the yellow becomes yellow, but to me, yellow eventually I'm thinking like a pigment of pink, right?
Again,
Yellow is
I agree with that.
yellow is yellow.
yeah,
That's why I'm not sure where I'm at.
Yeah, that's why without practicing, it's waste of times. So we need to have some kind of practice to recognize that. All right, so thank you. So see you next week then. Thank you, Ayappa.
Thank you.
Ayah pakai.
Thank you. Right safely, William. Thank you.
What was that? Oh,
I
drive
mean,
safely. Oh,
Right safely. Yeah. All right. So see you. Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
thank you.